My main goal is to create a rabid fan base where I can lock that door and we can stay here for 6 weeks. And then when you walk out, I guarantee you the industry will never look the same. What I am teaching is fundamentally unavailable in the marketplace. I am not lying to you, okay? I have worked for 17 years with chronic pain management. My sessions are 3 hours long. They are mat-based. I don't remember the last time I had somebody take off their clothes. When I give a session to a massage therapist, they freak out and tell me it's not massage. And when I give a session to a client in pain, they go, oh my God, this is amazing. Why isn't this available anywhere? And I say, because I can't get massage therapists to look at it as something they do. It is mat-based. What do you guys know about mixed martial arts? A little bit? When I was a kid, and this will go way back, we had a cable descrambler. And as a kid, I remember being like, whoa, they're going to have a karate guy. The UFC came on. They're going to have a karate guy fight a sumo guy. And a sumo guy fight a Muay Thai guy. And a boxer, and so on. And in walked a unassuming guy named Royce Gracie. And he destroyed everyone in his path. He didn't look very physically, how do you put this? You weren't afraid of him and his stature. He wasn't ripped and had big abs. I mean, he was in shape, but he wasn't, Royce Gracie and what he was teaching in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very comparable to what I'm trying to teach massage therapists. I'm in an industry full of boxers that have a jab and an uppercut. They're complaining about their hands hurting. And I say, come try to punch me. And I dodge a punch, put you in a chokehold, bring you to the mat, and say, I'm going to rip your arm off unless you tap out. It's a very different art form. I make a good living as a caustic, incendiary, grumpy, ornery. You ever watch House? Yes. I just knew if I could help people with pain, they'd let me wear a Pink Floyd t-shirt. Nobody would complain. Does that make sense? I'm going to work with you today, and yesterday when I talked to one of the students, I said, well, what are we going to learn? Like, what are we going to cover? And I was like, I don't know. And I could tell she got a little concerned. Like, does this guy know what he's teaching? And I'm like, no. I don't know exactly what I'm going to cover because I'm going to improvise the class based on what the students want to know. The challenge is, if I did lock the door for 6 weeks, I could improvise for those entire 6 weeks. What I'm really working on is trying to take what I'm doing and make it a bit more systematic. A little more step 1, step 2, step 3. And that includes what I'm doing online, because when people aren't in my physical presence, it helps to be able to give them steps that you can slowly take your practice from wherever you are to as far along as you want to develop. I don't have any real emotional attachment over whether or not you actually do mat work at a later date. What I do now is I start with the therapist where they are, and I'm going to completely blow this out of the water and make you look at your practice in a different way. You guys come on in. Do we have a table set up?
We can go get a table. We weren't sure.
Or do we have another over there, or how does that work?
Are we partnering up?
Yeah. 2 per table.
Somebody can use this table.
Yeah, so you guys can partner up. I can talk extemporaneously for an hour about things I don't know anything about. What do you guys have questions about? And I can cover a little bit of basics about Thai massage, but in your practice, the way I really make my living is by helping people in pain. It's not by teaching them the origin and insertion of their levator scapula. I mean, it's wonderful information, but they're in pain. When I'm dealing with students, I have to hit your pain points. I have to help you with the things that you need help with. In practice, we could talk about business, but mainly this is technique for today. What are you guys having problems with, and what do you see in clients that you can't quite figure out? So you need the clients to work on themselves. Good luck. This is America. We are Democrats and we are Republicans. Do we work on ourselves? Do we question our assumptions? Do we try to attain a state of more information? No. We give talking points.
I see a lot of this forward shoulder.
Yes. Yeah. So what's the challenge when you work with clients and they've got like rolled forward shoulder related issues?
Really getting them to release completely.
How do you typically handle that in session?
Don't. Pick someone else.
All right, when I deal with that, I usually will mobilize the joint, stretch it a little bit after I've already worked the
When you
muscle.
mobilize them, what position are they in?
I actually do it either prone or supine.
How many of you with any regularity put clients on their side? Raise your hand.
Pretty able only.
That's what they
Wow.
Is that what?
Because I travel state to state, and what I've started to notice is there's massage culture. There's massage culture. And I know that seems weird, but when you travel and you go state to state and you see it again, there's some similarities. Like, I'm sure the cornbread is a little different than where I grew up in Louisiana. I don't argue about how it's made. I'm a good cook, by the way. Like little changes, right? Because it changes from region to region. Massage and body work has a culture as well. When I started teaching table work and I was trying to help the students like adapt, because I'm trying to give them information they can use quickly and succinctly to help people in pain, that's where I convert people. That's where they go, this is a good idea, this works. If I can't do that, it's just, he was chatty. I do a ton of sideline work, and here's what my sessions would look like. What is your name, by the way? Sabrina. Listen, Sabrina would come in. She's a client. I worked at a chiropractor's office. Probably in the beginning, I was wearing scrubs. I later transitioned to tie fisherman pants that were a little flamboyant, and then a Thai massage jam t-shirt. But what I would do is, Sabrina's new to me. I'm a male in the industry. What I had a tendency to do was make it as easy as possible to transition people. If I came in and said, Sabrina, listen, I learned this body work that stems down from the Buddha and the father Dr. Jivaka. It's been passed down for 2,000 years in Thailand where families work on each other. I'm going to manipulate some energy lines. It's going to open up the stuff in your upper back and neck. It's going to relieve your pain.
I'm game.
And why is it funny?
Because it sounds not the norm.
That is the fundamental myth within Thai massage that I talk about in the first workbook. Here's how I would address it. Hey, Sabrina, where are you having problems?
Mostly my right SI joint.
Oh, okay, so your right SI joint, what's going on with that?
It's just really inflamed and
Inflamed?
very tender.
Okay, do you have pain there?
Yes.
Oh, okay, listen, I'm going to have you take off your shoes. I want you to lay down just like you are on the table. And then I could tell her, prone, supine, like whatever position, right? Then I would start working with her. What this did in a very simple, easy to use way, and for guys, I want you guys to pay particular attention to this. It allowed me to work on a woman in a way that was completely clothed, to develop rapport with her long before nudity was ever part of the session. Does it make sense? Now, here's what happens as a woman if you start to focus on this in your work and you put photos and videos of you working on clothed clients on your website. Creepy guys and their phone calls will drop to a minimum. Because they say, well, do you do no drape? And they're like, yeah, I don't drape people at all. They're completely clothed on a mat. You see? Because the female students in my classes would start giving me feedback. I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. Because my business website is Robert Gardner Wellness. The videos feature a guy who's incendiary and caustic with a beard. Like, they know who they're going to be dealing with. They get a chance to choose me, right? Yeah. So for those of you who are here, is everybody partnered up on a table? Do we need another table? Come on in. Is there other table coming? There we go. We're going to start with this rolled forward shoulder chest thing. When I started working as a massage therapist, I had been taught a very good Swedish routine and a very good kind of deep tissue routine. And here's what would happen. When I first started working, this is 17 years ago, Sabrina would come in and say, hey, my upper back and neck hurts. And it's always right here.
Yeah.
Like 90%. It was like Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. Like, it got to the point where I would try to remain emotionally present. Sabrina, where are you having problems today? Knowing she was going to say, oh, my upper back and my neck. I would give her a session and she'd say she felt better. She would tip. And then when I would work on her the next week, she'd say, yeah, it was kind of better for like an hour or two. And I was like, ooh, that's not. it wasn't good enough because I worked on chronic pain. I'm like, why are they all having problems with this? Like, why is this so, like, where is that coming from? And that was a deeper philosophical question. I was a philosophy student long before a drunk driver hit me after Jazz Fest in New Orleans. So I got into chronic pain management. That was my bread and butter, and that was how I excelled. I became the fix-it guy in all the establishments I worked at. The other therapists who wanted to focus on Swedish would consistently find the client who wanted to, get better and say, you need to go see Robert. We don't even know what he does. He just does this crazy stretching thing. When I would work on her, what I had been taught to do was I would usually have her face down in the face rest. She would have on no shirt or bra. I would use some oil or lubricant and work along the paraspinals, the rhomboids, all this stuff to be able to help her. That was the session that she would say, it was better for like an hour or two. And what it finally dawned on me when I kept working on it and going, why are they all having this? And this is the reason. Now, when their posture looks like this, what causes this? Pecs and pec minor. Now, how do women feel when I go, hey, Sabrina, listen, you're having problems with your pec and pec minor. We're going to drive in right here. She knows me, but she's already a little uncomfortable just when I walk in like that. So now I have to work on pec and pec minor on women. 80% of the people who come in were female. I worked at a spa initially. And I'm like, oh, man, they didn't teach us how to, I don't know how to, I know how to work pecs, but I can work pecs on you with much more ease and comfort than I can with her. Thai massage gave me the answer, but it was in a completely different way than I was familiar with. The body mechanics of mat work, I did it once. I had one session, and I was like, I'll take everything she teaches. I dedicated the next 3 years of my life to taking all of my teacher's classes, assisting her. Dude, I got coffee, fetched water, threw mats, cleaned studios, whatever I had to do to keep working with her. What I'm going to show you, is everybody partnered up? We got a table? Cool. Do you have more problems with your right side or your left side?
More my right side.
Right side. So here's what I want you to do. We're going to take this bolster out.
Okay.
I want you to lay down on your left side, or is it this side that bothers you the most? Which side bothers you more?
Either
Put
or,
it
really.
up. Put it up. Whatever side bothers you, I want you to put it up. And let's see here. Lift up. Let's see if that's high. That might be a little bit better. How's that? There we go. So, how many clients are used to being put inside lying? Why do we do that for prenatal?
They can't lay face down.
Increasingly, as I worked, I spent 80% of my time with the clients. I worked at a chiropractor's office. I had 30 minutes or an hour. I was a hitman. I had to go out and assassinate pain in 30 minutes to get them to come back to build a client. Because if you couldn't help them, it was like they didn't want me just kind of fumbling around. Like I had to learn how to do spot work like a mechanic. What's it do? Oh, you stop at the red light, it dies? Yeah, no, it's probably the catalytic converter. Like you had to get to that level, right? Now here's what happened. One, I've got her clothed. And I say, Sabrina, you're having more challenges. Is it always up here?
Not always.
Not always? Is it sometimes a little lower down?
Oh, absolutely.
Right in there?
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. So one, I reached out with my hands. People are familiar with that sort of hand contact. That's what we think of as massage. How much passive body contact do we make with clients?
Usually try not to,
Why do you try not to?
so that we can focus on the area we're actually working.
How's that?
Weird.
Weird? Why is it weird? Because you're a massage therapist, you don't jostle people. I'm sitting next to your butt. I am.
Oh my God.
I'm sitting on your butt.
I think the difference is in a lot of the massage places limit you from doing something.
Yeah,
So much
ethics
liability.
says we're not allowed to do that.
Sit me down in front of their ethics board.
Well, I'm not going to set you down, I'm just telling you, we're not allowed to touch the body like that.
Why?
Because it's not,
Where do you work?
I work for myself.
Oh.
And you can do what you want. Is this illegal?
No, but I'm just telling you what the board says.
What does the board say?
You're not supposed to touch your body like this up against the client like that.
How do they define that in writing?
Even if he's clothed, even if the person's clothed, because
It doesn't really state.
Isn't it like secondary touch or something like that?
I mean,
You've got primary where you're working and then secondary
How's
where
this
something
right here?
else touches.
Is it lower? I think it's a little higher. Is it right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. How's that? How's that? Right there. How's that?
Definitely sore.
I would totally never do that.
I got removed from 2 Washington State massage groups recently on Facebook because I posted a video of me sitting on a colleague.
Yeah.
so when you say sitting, like what? Where?
Adductors. I put a towel down and sit on her.
Yeah, Thai massage is usually in Washington State.
And that's where all this
Right there?
controversy comes in.
Right there? Right there. Is it too much? Not too
It
much?
hurts, but it's like working out.
The good hurt.
It's the good hurt.
Okay.
I think when you're working for a franchise, it becomes limited because of all the
Yeah.
you own your own practice.
How does that feel? How are we doing, Sabrina?
Doing all right.
How does this feel here?
Our stretch feels good.
How much work does this seem like for me?
Not a lot.
Okay, now, I'm making this passive body contact. I'm going to change it for a second. If I came in and did this, how does this feel?
It kind of hurts.
Have the stability.
It looks uncomfortable
Yeah.
for you and her.
Shaking our whole body.
Yeah.
Area.
When I was teaching early on, and I was still kind of getting my feet wet, I was teaching mat-based work in and around Austin. The students in class were like, oh my God, this is so intimate. And I went, you work on naked people. You're telling me that my work is more intimate? And they're like, oh, absolutely. And I'm like, why? And they said, you just make so much passive body contact with the client. And I was like, oh, yeah. So, I am teaching you a fundamentally different art form. You have to understand this. I'm in an industry full of boxers. I'm teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Massage therapists are the first people to tell me what I do is not massage. My clients pay me $240 a session. In a day, a good day, if it's 6 hours, I'll make $500 that day. Therapists tell me that a 3-day class that costs $400 with me, that's expensive. And I'm like, I made that yesterday. What are you talking about? Right? When therapists don't recognize it as being for their community, that's a real hurdle that I'm trying to figure out how to overcome. I think there are advantages for men doing this. There are advantages for women doing this. And I don't think it really cancels out Swedish and deep tissue. I think I add this in because after I do 15, 20, 30 minutes of that mobilization, once I've found out, oh, it's right up here. She's just right in her upper thoracic, right in there. Then I can say, Sabrina, do you want to take off your top and bra, lay down face first in the face rest so we can do deep tissue here? And she's like, sure. What I did is I just made my session completely stand out from any of the therapists in my area. The therapist I work with said, we don't know what Robert does. He just does this crazy stretching stuff. Go see him. He seems to help people in pain. Does it make sense? I want you to partner up, and I want you to start with what I showed you. First, I want you to try it where you sit with some distance, this is the most awkward thing ever, by the way. Yeah. I don't know how to explain how that is more awkward than like this.
Yeah, like
That got stabilized.
once you did it with a distance, it was
Where we also learned shiatsu, so we did mat work. So that's why when hearing that this is like too intimate, I don't see that. Just because
I agree,
my-
but I learned shiatsu and Thai right here in Virginia Beach, and I never heard these boundary issues that I'm hearing today.
Yeah.
I get banned from massage therapist groups.
I guess I just don't understand. I mean, to me, I feel like
It is not the same art form.
All the way
If
up
you
from
weren't
the feet
clothed,
all the way
maybe.
up.
In boxing, what happens if you hit below the belt? It's a penalty. What happens in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu if you hit below the belt? It's not the same art form. What happens if you're a boxer and you kick somebody?
You get thrown out.
This is not the same art form, fundamentally. But when it comes to chronic pain, I can help people much more quickly, much more rapidly, and guess what my reviews sound like on Google and Yelp? They sound just short of like Jesus rose the dead. And what I get is more clients in chronic pain who come in for help from the weird guy doing whatever that is. Do you have a question for me?
Yeah, for what you were doing, how is that affecting like the pec minor?
Which is a great
normally-
question, by the way, because I didn't address it. That's an awesome question. Thank you so much for asking that. So when I worked on her, he was asking, how did that affect the pec and pec minor? Because I'm pressing back here, right? Now what happens when I do this? I'm opening the front from the back. Now, as a woman, breast tissue falls down and forward. She's clothed. She's got on, I think, a brassiere as well. So she feels safe, and I can open her pec instead of going in and applying manual pressure there. I'm grabbing around the shoulder girdle to give her some length and open that. Does this make sense?
It hurts so good, y'all.
Now, how much work is this for me?
Somehow it's hard for me to see that that's affecting the pec
I want you to feel it.
Okay.
And then where's pec minor's origin and insertion?
Well, of course, it's up underneath.
The ribs and then coracobrachialis.
Right.
So when I take that line from behind, see what I mean?
It's like making like fashion.
I move constantly. So massage therapists will do this and say, oh, this is kind of hard on my body. It's like conditioning. What, do you think you're going to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with about training?
Yeah, right.
You learn how to use your legs and feet and core and all this stuff. I use these as deftly as I use my hands. I have to explain to people how to feel with their feet. And they're like, you can feel with your feet? I'm like, I can feel with my tuchus. And they're like, you can't feel with your tuchus? What kind of life have you been living? Like, I'm sitting on my colleagues, and the women I talk to who are clients, by the way, when I mentioned I got banned, they're like, what? They're like, that's my favorite. And I'm like, I want you guys to try this. I want you to start on the side that bothers you the most. Put that one up, and then have the person work on you. I'm going to walk around and walk you guys through it. What I think it is primarily is this link here is I'm pulling the shoulder back. It's lengthening all of this here first. And then I'm probably going to show a little bit of pressure in here too. But usually when I start out, I'll do the lengthening first, and also allows me to establish that contact with the client before I go into this more delicate pec area. Yeah.